Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Bismillah walhamdulillah wassalatu wassalam ala rasulillah. My name is Hurunnessa Fariad, and I will be your moderator today for our episode on the tale of Rohingya women, brought to you by the Bidesh Foundation. We're really looking forward to this conversation and finding out about the women who have gone through so much, from their homeland to their travels to now their life at the camps in Bangladesh, and just to get a glimpse, a very small glimpse of the things that they're going through, and how we as Americans and as other people from different nations can help them and get them to get back on their feet somehow, even while living in the camp. Right now, to get us started, I invite Jannah Syed to start with the Holy Quran.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. In the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful. Praise be to God, Lord of the universe, the most gracious, the most merciful. Master of the day of judgment. He alone we worship, and He alone we ask for help. Guide us to the straight path, the path of those whom you have blessed, not of those who earned your anger, nor of those who've gone astray. Sadaqallahu al-Azim.
Thank you so much, Jannah, for reciting the Quran for us and blessing this conversation for us. I'm going to get started now and introduce our speakers for today, and I will introduce them and they will come up on the screen as well. I start out with Ms. Nazia. She is a graduate of the University of Connecticut with a bachelor's degree in biological sciences, currently an entrepreneur and also researcher and journalist for a nonprofit organization called Make It Happen, an initiative that documents the incidents of oppression in Asia. And she's also the Bidesh brand ambassador. Welcome so much. Welcome, Nazia, to the show. We also have Rohingya Ahmed. She is a mid-career MPA candidate at Harvard University and a fellow at Harvard Center for Public Leadership. She previously obtained a BA in International Affairs and in 2011 in concentrations in International Economics and Development at the George Washington University. She works under the Obama White House. She worked under the Obama White House for almost 6 years since 2011. During her time at the National Security Council, she served as a senior advisor to the Office for Global Engagement and Strategic Communications. A native of Maryland and a daughter of Bangladeshi immigrants, Rohingya is passionate about social entrepreneurship and innovation and the social, political, and economic empowerment of women and marginalized communities. Welcome, Rohingya. We also have Sahel Ahmed. He is one of the founders and CEO of Bidesh Foundation. He was a 3-term Adams Vice President from 2014 to 2021. His long life mission is to serve humanity with humility. Welcome, Brother Sahel. It's good to see you here.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam. So I want to get started and kind of have Rohingya and Nazia walk us through and going back to your trip to the Rohingya camp in Bangladesh. I want you guys to walk us through the initial interaction you had with the Rohingya women. Were they open to talk about their experiences with you, or did they feel as if they can't trust anyone or no one would believe their story? I'm going to start with you, Rohingya, and then I'll go to Nazia.
Sure. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, everyone, and thank you again for having us join. Just to kind of lay out what we kind of walked into, there's definitely a lot of little kind of homes built like shanty houses, essentially, and there's just children. Little kids were everywhere. That's the first thing that you see walking in. Is a lot of little children just walking around without shoes, and a lot of these are like up on hills as well too. So that's kind of the first thing that you see. It was just a group of us women that went into a tent where there was a woman and her young child lying down on the floor. And the little girl actually had a machete wound on her head. And then there was a few other women there. And, initially she was a little shy to talk and didn't want to talk. But after a while, we had a translator who was a local, and she was able to kind of open up the space to kind of open up the conversation. One of the things that struck me was as we were talking to her, 3 other women were brought in, and all of them were pregnant. They're clearly all pregnant for the same amount of time. I think they were probably 7 months in by that point. Because all of these women were raped on the same day or within the same week when they were, pushed out and violently attacked by Myanmar's military. And that was really, really jarring to see and to kind of be in the room with. After a while, they did start all opening up. And one of the things that really struck me was not a single one of those women talked about what happened to their bodies, or at least didn't elaborate what was done to them. But what they did do was talk about, watching their baby's head get smashed into a rock in front of them, their kids being thrown into a river in front of them, their husbands getting killed in front of them. I was moved by how strong these women are, which quite often we forget of how central women are in our communities, and how much they are a support to within our families, to children, to husbands, to parents. One of the women kind of shared how, she was raped, but as she was, fleeing Myanmar and crossed into Bangladesh, she was picked up by somebody on the other side who also then kept her and proceeded to rape her for a week further. There are others who do make it to the other side, and a lot of Bangladeshis welcomed them and did the best that they could to provide the supplies that they could. Obviously, it's not enough. But hearing a lot of these women's stories were heartbreaking, and they did want their voices to be heard. They did feel like no one was listening to them, that no one was helping. They have no one to support them anymore. Some of these girls have no parents, have no siblings, have no fathers anymore. There was one girl that basically 2 other women just kind of temporarily adopted and were taking care of her. But these are just a few of the stories, and they did want their voices to be heard. They wanted their stories to be known. They were pleading for help. But I think the biggest thing to take away is to imagine the pain and the suffering that these women are living with, which is the memory of what they saw happen in front of their eyes to their kids and to their husbands and to their brothers. And that was definitely one of the biggest takeaways that I had.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah. It's a pleasure being here, and I'm so grateful for this platform because this has impacted and changed my life in so many different ways that I can't even begin to tell you. My experience with going to the camp, what actually happened during a very pivotal time in my life, in my personal life. I was in a difficult marriage, and I was going through a divorce. And when I was in my idda period, which is the waiting period of a divorce, I was really looking for healing and growth. And I made dua to Allah Azza wa Jal during my idda that I be surrounded by His friends, by His awliya, the people that were closest to Him. And I also prayed that I would be guided towards an initiative and an organization that is close to him. And subhanAllah, within a couple of days of actually making that dua, I had the opportunity to go to the camp through Bidesh. And the women that I had encountered there, I felt were almost made of a different soil than I was, in that their courage, their resilience, their strength was uncanny. There were women that, as Ramana had mentioned, were raped repeatedly while their husbands were being mutilated, while their children were being snatched from their arms and thrown into a fire. And when I was interacting with these women, initially they were shy. They didn't know what to expect. It's not something that is typically shared, especially topics of rape and such. But when the translator assisted me in asking certain questions and comforting them and telling them that we're here to hear your stories and to share to the world what your experiences were like so that we can get you help, they started to open up more. And as Ramana mentioned, rarely did they touch on their own experiences. It was about what happened to their husbands and their brothers and their fathers. And you could see, interestingly enough, that there was such a discrepancy in age and in gender in the camps, and that there were children, and then there were women, and then the elderly. The men were almost non-existent. You didn't see, older boys or things like that. And so that unfortunately placed these women and children in very vulnerable situations. You had situations where elderly women had lost their husbands and the caretakers, the breadwinners in their families. I encountered a little girl who I bring up frequently because her image still haunts me to this day. Her name was Husna. And she was around my daughter's age, which is at that time 5 years old. And I remember her haircut, and I thought she was a boy at first, not knowing that the hair is cut off for these little children so that they're not raped by the armies, the men in the armies. And so I was very disturbed about what they had to do to protect themselves. This little girl had no parents. She was an orphan amongst many. And she roamed around the refugee camp. I have no idea who takes care of her. She's probably now heading towards puberty, and I have no idea who will help her through such an important time in her life towards womanhood. And there were just deeply disturbing images that people had of their loved ones that they carried around, which depicted mutilated bodies. Children had of their fathers that were tortured, and those were the only remnants that they carried with them. And so for me, it was amazing to see that throughout all of these experiences, these women could look me straight in the eye and say, yes, we have gone through this, but there's still Allah, and we still have Allah, and we still have Islam, and we may not, or we may be recompensed in this life, but definitely in the hereafter. And so I pray that we were able to do them justice by letting your stories be heard, inshallah.
Yeah. Thank you, Nazia and Romana, for sharing your stories. I could hear it in both of your voices, how difficult this is to recant and to remember these women. And, for us, just hearing their stories, we're so horrified. I can't even imagine what it's like having gone through that abuse themselves, and then watching their loved ones being killed and mutilated and thrown into fires, and not being able to do anything, and not being able to have anybody to come to their defense. So, and I thank you both so much for really bringing us all into the reality of what these women have gone through, because if we don't share the stories, we don't know, we can't feel it. So I want to thank you again for coming on and telling us their stories, pretty much, carrying on what they have gone through. I want to go move over to Brother Sahel. I had a question for you in terms of the camp, and what were some of the initial work that Bidesh Foundation had to start when the plight of these women were discovered? You're on mute, I think.
Assalamu alaikum. So as the Sister Rumana and Sister Nazia already shared with you their experience, and some of the really personal experience from the sisters, the Rohingya sisters. And subhanAllah, I mean, this was like in the very beginning, like even for Bidesh, just to figure out where to start, right? I mean, you're just imagine, right? Just imagine that we're talking about almost 700,000 people are crossing the border, right? Walking for like several nights, several days, and then after when they cross the border, they come to a foreign land, and then they faces all this, obstacle in this land. And even though the locals are very welcoming and all this thing, but then they didn't have anything with them, right? And then they settled in we're talking about 25 square mile, and we're talking about close to 1 million people in this 25 square mile. Just imagine yourself that how densely and how overcrowded that place is, right? And then you are having these issues with the clean water. You are having the issues with not having any good facility for the woman to take the shower, or septic latrine and things like that. Your health issues, food. I mean, this everything counts, right? Everything, and especially for the woman. You need to understand their privacy, their coming through this trauma and all this thing, and then now there is nowhere for them to even stay at night, right? Even if you're basically staying under the tree or things like that, right? So I mean, it was like, I mean, as I said, like Bidesh, initially we started like focusing on where we can start be more impactful, right? And we're actually the shelter we have seen, like there, as Sister Rumana was saying, the pre-resilient people, I mean, they've been building their homes, using the bamboos and whatever they had. We've been providing them the waters, digging the well, sanitary latrines, getting the women wash facilities and for the hygiene and stuff like that. So I mean, gradually as things settled down, then we took other projects like healthcare. We took the projects like children learnings and orphan cares and sponsored child programs. So it's almost like 4 years now, close to 3.5 years plus. So so get a lot of things going on, a lot of things we have done, and still, I mean, it's almost a drop in a bucket, right?
Yes, exactly. I mean, just to think about someone living with tarp and like makeshift roofs, and the surrounding areas, I don't think is even fit for someone to live, much less have a
Yeah.
camp that has even less to offer. It's like living with the most minimal amount of things you can have. And being a woman and knowing our needs, it's extremely difficult, I'm sure, to be living in that situation and still trying to make things work.
And one thing, I'm sorry to just to bring this point to the audience, so that they could realize that we're talking 3.5 years back, like the situation. Plus now today, actually things are even worse than now, right? I mean, it's not like their problem has been solved, or it's not like that, but now they're living in a better camp or any of that. They're still living in 25 square mile. They're still having the same, health issues and other issues. Actually, things get even worse, right? I mean, from that perspective, we had just recently had a fire that, almost destroyed about 10,000 homes. 50,000 become homeless. So, I mean, as you have the issues and then the issues after issues, and it seems like it's never ending, right? So,
yeah, subhanallah. Okay, Brian, if you can play the video clip for us, please.
Since August 25th, Since August 25th, 2017, the Burmese military has committed killings, rapes, arbitrary arrests, and mass arson of homes in hundreds of predominantly Rohingya villages in northern Rakhine State, forcing more than 700,000 Rohingyans to flee to neighboring parts of Bangladesh. Human Rights Watch has found that this abuse amounts to crimes against humanity under international law. 52% of the women surveyed by the United Nations have been raped. More than 40% of children are orphans. Bidish Foundation's focus is to improve women's health and financial well-being. Project Women Care recently opened a Women's Empowerment Center to train women in Rohingya and neighboring communities in the skills of tailoring, horticulture, poultry farming, and more. Your zakah and sadaqah can help to rebuild the lives of Rohingya women.
Nazia and Rumana, as you can see in this video, the women came with a certain mindset and are now thriving as much as they can. It's still not enough, but at least they're trying to make something out of their lives. But I want you to both to compare kind of what you thought about the camp when you went there, and then now seeing the women trying to cope with their life. Do you think they have they've been given the opportunity to cope with their life, with their emotional issues, with the physical issues, and trying to make the best that they can given the circumstances? Because they've gone through so many different traumatic experiences, really haven't processed anything, and now are at a place where they need to move on with their life. How did you see the camp when you got there, and then now trying to see these women trying to make a better life for themselves? We can start with you, Nazia. You're on mute.
So I don't think that there was much of a difference in that, especially for moms. Mom life doesn't stop. They were hustling then, they're hustling now. And they don't have time to watch for their own physical and emotional health. They're too busy taking care of whoever is under their care. And I see that continuing, and may Allah bless them for that. They are so unselfish in that way. And it really breaks my heart that they have to continue doing that without mental support, without physical support. And so for me, I don't see much of a change. I think that they are strong and they are trying their best to do what they can with the means that they have. And I know with the Bidish, we have multiple projects where they are trying to help them economically, trying to give them an opportunity to sustain themselves, which are amazing projects that they're working on. But in terms of, being a woman under those circumstances, I think they're doing the best that they can, as they have always been.
Yeah, I'd only just add that, when I was there in 2018, a lot of them still didn't even have access to the medications that they needed post-rape. Some of them were getting them, but some of them still hadn't gotten them. Obviously it's been a few years. However, I highly doubt that they have all the things that they do need because, as we've talked about, hundreds, potentially thousands, probably thousands of women were raped all within the span of 1 week. They all are now maybe new mothers or they are mothers to newborns. And that requires so many resources to raise a child, which they most likely don't have access to. In terms of the young girls that are there too, right? There's young girls that are also dealing with post-pregnancies, raising children. There was no mental health support system at that point. I'm sure there are some attempts to provide that, by VDESH, but also by other organizations as well. However, there's no way that it's reaching all the women who need it, and to the extent that they need it. Even with the young girls, another challenge that they're facing is marriage. Unfortunately, even though they are within these camps, there is that cultural aspect as well too that they're trying to protect these girls, that these girls need to be protected from. So, I don't think that they have all the resources that they need. There's just no way. And when you see these camps, it's so spread out that there's also no central place for them to go to be able to get all the resources that they need. I would also point out, and this is kind of per the previous conversation we were having, for those of you who know, Bangladesh is prone to flood. There's so much flooding that takes place. And there's no way that they, number one, don't have the privacy to have the sanitary needs that they have, but then they're also affected by these floods as well too, which have a huge impact on their quality of life and how they're living as well as their water sources, their food supply. So, I don't want to repeat anything that Nazia already said, but I would just echo all the points that she made earlier.
And those are all great points. And I think it adds to this notion that we're putting women in not just an area that they're unfamiliar with, but there's also these, natural things that end up happening that make life even harder. But the aspect that I think is really crucial here to talk about is the mental health and emotional health of these women. That I think, although the different organizations that have been helping out at the camp don't have the resources, and now with COVID, it's even more impossible for someone to go there, or if there's like a team of counselors who want to go and help these women talk through their experience and their trauma, it would be quite impossible at this point. Brother Sahel, I wanted to ask you, when it comes to counseling and therapy and giving these women the things they need to emotionally process what has happened to them, because it's not just about taking them out of that situation, it's also processing the pain and the hurt and the betrayal and the abuse that they went through so that they can lead a healthier life. What has been done at the camp so far?
Yeah, thank you, Sister Huri, for this question. This is a very, as you could see that, the biggest thing is the trauma with the mental health and the abuse that they've been through, right? And the camp itself, there are a few NGOs that they are pretty equipped, right? There's a BRAC International, which is like one of the largest NGO in Bangladesh. So one thing, just for the viewer to understand that, even though it's a camp, those folks are living there in this 25 square mile, but there's a lot of bureaucracy is also in place, right? It's not like any NGO can go and start anything at their will, right? It has to be approved by the government of Bangladesh. It has to be approved by the camp itself. There's a different level of bureaucracy also involved in the camp. So most of the thing that what BDESH does, and similar to the other health camp or healthcare center that we have in the camp, mostly they look into there's more of a primary care kind of facilities, and then if there are the issues like with the woman health issues or mental issues, and I doubt that many clinic is there to dealing with the mental issues, but mostly the pregnancy and other issues regarding their that women health has been referred to the other clinics and taken care by that, but it's not sufficient enough. It's kind of and also there's many healthcare centers are also closing down because of lack of funding and things like that. So yeah, it's kind of challenging for us to really take care of the real need and real help. The one thing, just I've been talking to the folks on the ground, and some of the programs that we are thinking of, especially like with the recently government also opened up all the communication channels. So now like last year, there's the internet connections in the camp. So a lot of things we couldn't do remotely. So we are hoping now that hopefully, and this is one of the things that I'm trying to also get out of this, call or this conference, that I mean, we can help them remotely, right? Especially like when it comes to the mental health issues and counseling and things like that. We can do it from here. We have 4 a learning center in the camp. We have a healthcare centers, and we can turn them to equip them with all the internet, and making sure it's a distance learning or distance sessions that we can do things in that nature. So yeah, I mean, we'll be willing to do many of those kind of program, because I think like that is very much needed.
Thank you so much, Brother Sahel. And that leads me to my last question that all 3 of you can take turns in answering, is that what can we as people living outside can do to help? I know funding is a huge issue, and I think if that was something that was taken care of, a lot of these things would be eradicated. And I think we would even get rid of the campsites themselves and have people move into living in normal human places where they can thrive, right? But that's not the case right now. So we're hoping that we can get funding to at least ameliorate some of their situation. But what can we do here right now, today, to help promote the ability of these women to move forward in every aspect of their life, whether it's physical, emotional, all of their feelings and the things that they're going to, and the children that they're taking care of in these camps? Nazi, I want to start with you, and I'll move to Romana, and then we'll end with Brother Sahel. But all of these answers are tied together in terms of our responsibility as human beings for others. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us, He doesn't give us because it's all for us. He gives us because we have a responsibility to those who are in need. And these women are all of our responsibilities. But what is it that you think we can do sitting here in the West to eradicate this issue?
I think that there is so much work to be done. But in terms of what we can do on a personal level is definitely help spread the awareness. Organizations like Bidesh, are doing their best to shed light on the situations, to, post our fundraising events on their pages, share it with their families and friends. And, the biggest thing is I feel, is to keep them in your du'as. I think that du'as are so powerful, and we underestimate the power of it. And especially on a night like this, inshallah, don't ever underestimate the power of your prayer. And inshallah, I have high hopes still in our communities, in our people, that we're able to do our part. One of the greatest ways to be grateful to Allah Azza wa Jal for the blessings that you have, and to recognize those blessings that you have, is to give back. And gratitude for the things that you do have, and recognition of those things, I think is vital. And inshallah, I pray that we're able to do whatever we can, especially in these last couple of nights of Ramadan. I would really urge everyone to give towards this organization, and inshallah reap the rewards.
I would just add that, I think, again, at an individual level, the raising awareness, there's definitely a lot of advocacy work here that's needed. The Rohingya people have been stated to be among the most neglected people in the world. Right now in the world, with everything happening, people are moving on, focusing on different issues. And while I understand that there are a lot of issues in the world, we can't forget some of the most vulnerable. There's almost close to 1 million that are in these camps. And I think, as an individual, in addition with raising awareness, maybe hosting your own fundraisers, hosting your own panels to teach other people, sharing that information, sharing some of the stories, doing research of all the different NGOs, including Bidesh Foundation and ones that are doing work to support women and children, and finding ways to fundraise and support for all those different causes. One thing I do want to state is actually one other thing that we can all do is raise sons and also educate within our own communities the value and the importance of women and the respect that we need to give them. What happened to these women, yes, was done by violent extremists, but at the same time, it was done by men. This is not uncommon also within other countries as well too. And that is a big thing that you can do is teaching the value and the importance of women. And I just want to share 2 stories that I heard this week that ended up being very relevant to this conversation. And one is, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said that anyone who made his daughter Fatima angry would make him angry, and anyone who disregarded her disregarded him, because that's how much value he had for his daughter and how much he had for women. Another person, Abu Huraira, actually reported seeing a man, and the man saw the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam kissing a child, and the man said, "I have 10 children and I never kiss them." And he was told in response that one who doesn't show mercy and love to his children will get no mercy and love from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. All these children who are in these camps, they are fatherless right now. Some of them have no parents at all. They're just as much our responsibility as being our children too. And so it's our responsibility to show them mercy and show them care by not forgetting them and by supporting them and finding ways to do that. So that is our responsibility and the luxury and privilege that we live in here back at home. And that's something that we are responsible. Those children are our children, and we're responsible for showing mercy towards them and to supporting them.
Thank you so much, Ramona. I loved what you had to say and what Nazia had to say. I think it ties everything together. And I'm going to give the mic to Brother Sahel for his 30-second pitch before we move on to the program.
I just actually, with your permission, there is a sister from the camp. Actually, just got the message from her. If you're okay, can I play that message? I mean, I think it's just like about 2 hours ago she made that. I couldn't bring her on the video because of the connection and everything, but I have her audio message. So if you can play that, and then I'll do my conclusion, inshallah.
Dear all, this is Yasmin Nara, founder and executive director of Rohingya Women Development Forum, so-called RWDF. It is a great honor for me to speak with you regarding teen pregnancy, early marriage, mental health, and livelihood. Here, most of the Rohingya women are been suffering from child marriage, which affect largely on mental health and livelihood. This is happening because of the extreme poverty in the society. Most of the people cannot have income source in the camp, so it is a vanity for them to carry out a large family. Therefore, they have to marry their children despite of underage. To prevent this, providing a livelihood activity to the women become mandatory. My final request is therefore to provide and manage some activity for the women. Thank you so much.
So inshallah, I mean, as you could see that, most of the issues that we discussed today, I mean, that's basically their concern and their issues. And just one final here thing that, as Romana was mentioning about children and orphans, and alhamdulillah, Bidesh has, you can go to the Bidesh Foundation's website and you can look at the Rohingya page, and you could see the list of the project that we have. And you could sponsor a child, the orphan child, the Rohingya child, and we are taking care of them. You can help the Project Women Care, where we have the livelihood program, and also we have the health care program for the women. So I would hope that, as I said before, it's a drop in a bucket. There's many NGOs needs to come forward, many generous donor like you needs to come forward. There needs to be awareness, mostly I would say, like, right now, that, I mean, that these voices needs to be heard. These voices needs to be, has been told, not just only in this forum, but, it should be going to the national forums, and this story should be up, should be brought up to those, national platforms, and talk about that. So inshallah, with that, I just like to thank everyone to coming today and joining today, inshallah. And may Allah help us and bless us and bless Rohingya people.
Thank you so much, Brother Sohail, Nazia, Rumana, for coming and spending your time with us and giving us your stories and your feedback. It's a tremendous help. I am going to move to our next segment and introduce Dr. Altaf Hussein. Dr. Altaf Hussein serves as an associate professor and chair of the Community Administration and Policy Practice concentration in the Howard University School of Social Work in Washington, D.C. He also serves as the chair of the Curriculum Committee with oversight for the Masters of Social Work program as well. He has primary teaching responsibilities for the displaced population field of practice specialization, which includes social work practice with individuals experiencing homelessness and natural and human caused disasters, as well as with immigration and refugees. Dr. Hussein's community involvement includes serving as vice president of Yaqeen Institute for Islamic Research, a board member of the Conscious Kid Library, a former vice president, and then two-term national president of the Muslim Students Association of the U.S. and Canada, and vice president of the Islamic Society of North America. He also serves as an advisory board member of the Families Project, dedicated to preventing domestic violence. Welcome, 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 Dr. Altaf Hussein.
Thank you so much, Sister Hurunnessa, and of course, thank you to our panelists, Sister Nazia, Sister Rumana, mashallah, good to see you after a long time, and Brother Sohail. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wassalam ala Rasulullah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala indeed, grant all of your du'as today on this blessed night. We have just about 10 minutes before we close the program, and we want to really bring your attention to what the panelists have just mentioned. That the situation that is unfolding and has been unfolding within and impacting our Rohingya brothers and sisters, particularly tonight's focus is the women. And I want you to really bring to mind and be present as you think about the suffering that they have undergone, but also what we can do in order to be able to alleviate and to, inshallah, bring them some relief. I'm in social work, and I can tell you, in terms of trauma, this is not something that a few dollars that we will donate will help for the trauma. But as in terms of the day-to-day needs, then definitely there's a lot that we can do. A lot of these women are very resilient. They are very much ready to take control of their own lives and to and to not necessarily be waiting for a handout. So for $250. For literally $250, you could help Bidesh to deliver a sewing machine to them, mashallah, under what we call the Women's Livelihood Project, to be able to give them the ability to be self-sufficient, inshallah. For $100, this is a health package, and it was mentioned earlier about all of the different sanitation needs and just hygiene needs, and this is for $100. You're able to support, inshallah, our sisters to be able to, basically on a daily basis, for them to have some relief. And then, of course, in addition to the livelihood project of the sewing machine, there's also for these farming, small farming, chicken farming, vegetable farming, etc., for $250 to lease a small plot of land, and then they can, inshallah, then benefit from that on a day-to-day basis. So whatever you give tonight, do not give it out of pity for these our beloved sisters. Instead, do it in a way to say, "Oh Allah, I want to draw nearer to you on this blessed night." We're making dua, inshallah, that it is Laylatul Qadr, that it is, we know that it's the odd night, 27th night, and that all of the duas are being presented, inshallah, to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we owe it to ourselves to do that. So I'm really, grateful that our goal tonight, in the few minutes that I have left, is about $25,000. And so if you're listening if you're able to participate in any which way, you'll see the link going across the screen where it says, basically you're visiting the website of BDESH at bdeshfoundation.org/Rohingya, and then you can inshallah select sadaqah, zakah. Both of these are indeed eligible for tonight, because just the cause is humanitarian assistance to those most in need. So I want to announce, mashallah tabarakallah, that we have a $2,000 donation, mashallah, from Brother Masood Ahmed from Ellicott City. May Allah bless him and his family. Brother Ihsan, mashallah, at $1,000. Alhamdulillah, we're getting news that we have and Brother Faraz Siddiqui at $1,200, mashallah. Sister Fariha Syed at another $1,000. Allahu Akbar. Keep it coming, right? Think about how you can support BDESH. Think about how you can say to BDESH, don't worry about the resources. You come up with the projects, you do the delivery of the aid, and we will do our best, inshallah, to keep sourcing you with that. We also have Mercy to Mankind, an organization, mashallah, supporting with $2,000. Allahu Akbar. So we're approaching the 10,000 mark, inshallah. We really want to get the full 25,000. So if you're listening, you can make dua, you can yourself make a donation, and definitely share the link, bdeshfoundation.org/Rohingya, inshallah, with the people in your own network, whether it's in on WhatsApp or Signal or on Facebook or inshallah on YouTube as well. Sister Brother Sajid Rahman, mashallah, another $1,000, and Brother Sajjad Ibrahim 1,000, and Brother Fuad Alam another 1,000. So may Allah bless everyone, mashallah, who's donated so far, and we want to keep it going. And remember, the dua that is being made for those who donate, it's a dua made by angels. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam reminded us that the angels are watching to see who spends, who holds back. To the one who spends, the angels say, Allahumma ati munfikan khalafa. So $250, right, in terms of the livelihood project, either for the plot of land or for the or for, in fact, the sewing machine project. $100 for the women's health package. 12,000, by the way, is a little bit of a bigger project, and there the goal, 12,500, is actually to help run the medical care. Although psychiatric care, psychological care, counseling, all of that is very much needed on a day-to-day basis, right? They have, for example, those who are pregnant, they have prenatal needs. Those who are just, having any other issues, they need immediate medical care. For 12,500, and we're hoping you can contribute towards that, maybe 500, maybe 1,000, about 2,000, inshallah, 2,000 or so patients are served per month from our generosity here in America. So I want to, to inshallah keep looking to the organizers to see if they have any other updates. But we have looks like we're reaching, we have some anonymous donations, mashallah, of about another 4,800. So we're at just close to around 15,000. We still have $10,000 left to go. So we have just a couple more minutes to wrap up. If you are, within reach of a phone, and you can share that link, inshallah, anybody who responds, even $1 a day is $365, right? $500, you could designate that for 2 livelihood projects. So, which means potentially 2 of our beloved sisters could benefit from starting, being self-sufficient, starting either the sewing machine project or through the farming. So we're going to start to conclude here, inshallah, for the sake of time. But I do want to remind you to make dua. This is critical, that we cannot, we cannot change the situation. We wish we could, but we need to make dua. And so please do your best. Support them as much as you can, inshallah. Excuse me, and make dua. And the best dua for ourselves is Allahumma innaka afun kareemun tuhibbul afwa fa'fu anna. Oh Allah, you love to forgive. You are the one who forgives. And so grant us forgiveness, oh Allah. Right? And may Allah bless all of you. May Allah indeed, replace what you have spent and bring relief to our sisters. Let me turn it back over. Oh, alhamdulillah, we have 2 anonymous at 500. Let me turn it back over to Sister Hurunnessa. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Altaf Hussein, for joining us and doing a little fundraiser so that we can get to help these women at a much faster rate. And don't think that just because if you don't have the funds right now that you can't help. The website is there. Go to b-foundation.org/Rohingya. You can donate anytime. You can share with your friends. And like Dr. Altaf Hussein said, even if it's $2 a day, $5 a day, it goes a long way for those who need it. So please make sure that you go to the website and donate. Think of it as this way, women are the most neglected group of people in society, and we see this happening there day in and day out. They need our help. So please make a collection of funds with your friends, with your family members, and collect the funds, and then go to the website and donate. Without your financial support, we can't give these women the mental health, the counseling, the medications, and all the other things that they need in order to be healthy and thriving women for themselves and for their children. I want to again thank Nazia Khan, Rumana Ahmed, Dr. Sahel, Brother Sahel Ahmed, for coming on and sharing their stories. Please join me in this dua, and then I will bid you farewell for tonight. It is the last 10 days of Ramadan. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless each and every one of you, forgive all of our sins, make it easy for all the women and children and all those suffering in the world, especially the Rohingya women who have gone through things that I don't think any one of us could imagine or even handle. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ease their difficulties, give rahmah to them, ease the pain in their heart, give us the ability to be the ones who can help them. Use us as agents of change. Use us as those who can bring mercy to them through our funds, through our talents, through our training. We have a lot of people who are counselors and therapists who could donate their time through B-Dash Foundation and be counselors over the internet to them right now. And if you'd like to do that, please reach out through their website and email any of them. They will be more than happy to connect you to the women there who need their help. This is something you can do right out of your home. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless all of you for donating and thinking of these women and watching. And I think that is something that's crucial because you're getting the knowledge of what's actually going on there. And without that knowledge, we won't be able to help them. So I want to thank you so much for coming. Ramadan Mubarak, Eid Mubarak, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide all of us to the straight path and forgive us. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. Thank you again so much to everyone. I want to bid you farewell. For those of us here on the East Coast, it is almost iftar time. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless everyone's fast, and we will see you soon. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.